They married me to use me. They mocked me in front of their boardrooms, locked me in like a thief and thought I'd quietly disappear. But I didn't break. I signed the divorce and took the empire with me. Now they're bankrupt, forgotten and begging me. I'm laughing on a yacht in the Caribbean. 3 minutes early. That was all. I stepped into the sleek, glass-walled conference room, my heels silent against the polished floors. The long mahogany table stretched ahead, ringed with executives dressed in the same tired shades of power, navy, charcoal, black. Me. A silk blouse the color of storm clouds. A pencil skirt that hugged, not screamed. Neatly pinned hair. Controlled. Predictable. Forgettable. Just the way they preferred me. Vanessa Lynn's eyes flicked up as I entered. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Late again, she muttered just loud enough for the room to hear, her voice honeyed with venom. And where's the coffee I asked you to grab? I glanced at her, my lips neutral. I wasn't aware I was your assistant. Her smirk widened. Oh, you weren't. She turned back to her laptop, clicking exaggeratedly. You just ignore what I say now? Is that it? I said nothing, walking toward my usual seat. Third from the head, not at the head, though by now I could run every number on that whiteboard blindfolded. Just as I reached for the chair, Vanessa casually kicked it away with the heel of her Louboutin. The screech of it echoed like a slap. A few heads turned. A few more smirks bloomed. Vanessa didn't stop. If you can't even handle a small task, Claire, maybe just stay home. Be a housewife. Let Ryan take care of you. She tilted her head, eyebrows arched with faux pity. You call yourself a career woman? My spine stiffened. She leaned back and delivered the final jab with a casual shrug. If it weren't for Ryan's sake, I'd have fired you already. The silence that followed was a special kind of loud. Even the interns turned to look at me, some with curiosity, others with barely hidden contempt. I reached for my phone and without a word tapped the screen and dialed. Then I tossed it onto the table. Let's ask Ryan Carter if he dares fire me, I said coolly, folding my arms across my chest. The line rang once, twice, then cut off. A few chuckles rippled through the room. Wow, someone near the end of the table whispered. She really thinks she has that much pull. Please, another voice chimed in. She's a glorified house pet. Probably mentally unstable. Women in bad marriages often are. The words stung, but I let them bounce off my skin like dull rubber bullets. Let them laugh. Let them forget who I am. I called again. And again. My expression never changed. Vanessa sighed, dramatically flipping open the meeting folder like I'd delayed the whole operation. Everyone knows what you are, Claire, she said, shaking her head like a disappointed mother. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Just fetch the coffee and we can get started. I didn't move. Dialed again. This time Ryan answered. The room fell quiet. Are you out of your damn mind? His voice blared through the speaker. I was drinking with clients until midnight. My head's splitting and you're calling me over nothing. I didn't flinch. Your partner wants to fire me. Did you know? Pause. Then his voice dropped an octave. I don't know, he said coldly, but if she did, she's right too. You said you didn't want to stay home, Claire. So I placed you in our best department. And what did you do? The words were knives. Each one sharper than the last. You ranked bottom in every quarterly review. You haven't delivered one proposal worth approving. Do you even understand how many people are sick of you leeching off this company? Laughter, now unfiltered, erupted behind cupped hands and covered mouths. Ryan wasn't done. We're about to go public and I don't keep dead weight around. If you can't do the job, go home and make soup. Don't embarrass yourself. The silence after was deafening. My phone lay still on the table, screen dim. Vanessa smirked, rising from her chair with a self-satisfied sway. I've long told Ryan you didn't belong here. She gave a small chuckle, the kind used at funerals to hide glee. With our company's new position, we only hire the best now. You should go home. Do laundry. Stir soup. If you're lucky, Ryan won't get bored before dessert. The snickers grew. Heads nodded. One man even whispered, ouch. But I didn't shrink. I simply looked up at her and said almost curiously, what do you mean? Are you saying the company doesn't need me, and Ryan doesn't either? Vanessa's eyebrows arched. Are you deaf or just stupid? She took a dramatic breath and launched into a rehearsed tirade. You're always late. You leave early. You disrespect your superiors. You paint your face like you're heading to a fashion show, not a boardroom. You miss deadlines. You ignore tasks. I kept my hands folded. Let her continue. At home, she added with a cruel smile, you don't even do your duties. No child. No care. No warmth. Just a cold woman staring at a husband who comes home drunk from work dinners. Vanessa leaned in, her voice turning into a low hiss. What do you bring to the table, Claire? I tilted my head, lips curling just slightly. I feed all of you. The laughter stalled. Vanessa blinked. What? My value. I said louder. My value is that people like you, like Ryan, get to eat because I exist. The words hung in the air like a bomb with the pin freshly pulled. The smirks faded. Confusion began to creep in. They didn't understand. Good. They didn't need to. Not yet. I sat back, calm, unbothered. Ryan's rise, Carter Group's dominance. None of it would have happened without my family's network, without my father's quiet approval, without the one photo covered in blood that Elder Carter had handed my father 8 years ago. The favor owed. The debt that brought me here. They had no idea who they were laughing at. And I had no intention of reminding them. Yet. Across the table, Vanessa burst into laughter, bent at the waist, gripping her side like I'd just told a joke. A few more chuckles followed, like obedient sheep following the sound of their shepherd. That's rich, she cackled. You feed us. I rose from my chair and reached for my bag. I'd seen enough. Let them enjoy their delusions. Vanessa, she stepped to the door and made a small wave. The staff stationed outside immediately moved in. 2 junior managers stood shoulder to shoulder in front of the conference room's glass doors, locking them with a soft click. I stared at them. What is this? I asked, though I already knew. Vanessa leaned against the wall, arms crossed with a satisfied tilt of her chin. Claire. Do you think you can just waltz in, throw a little attitude and walk out like nothing happened? I didn't answer. We have protocols, she said mockingly as if she were teaching a toddler. You've just been removed from your position. We need to verify that you're not carrying any sensitive material or confidential data. All devices, bags, pockets, and if necessary the person. You want to body search me now? My voice was flat. Almost amused. Don't make it sound so dramatic, she said with a smirk. It's standard policy. And really, if you're innocent, what are you so afraid of? She snapped her fingers. The 2 guards, flimsy interns masquerading as enforcers, began walking toward me. I stepped back once. If either of you lays a finger on me, I said in a voice that dropped cold and low, you'll never work in this city again. One of them hesitated, faltering mid-step. The other looked to Vanessa uncertainly. Vanessa's smile widened. Look at her. Trying to scare everyone with big talk. Let me guess, Claire, you're going to call your daddy again? I remained silent. That won't work this time. She waved her hand again. Do it. But they didn't get the chance. Because just then the sound of high heels echoed down the hallway outside the glass doors. Precise. Measured. Deliberate. Every head turned toward the sound. The doors clicked open and into the room stepped a woman dressed in a blood-red bodycon dress that clung to her like she was poured into it. Her black hair flowed down her back like a waterfall, lips painted to match the gown. Jamie Lynn. The infamous heiress of the Lynn family in Harbor City. The room seemed to stop breathing. Even Vanessa straightened up like a schoolgirl. Jamie's eyes swept the room once with elegant disinterest, until they landed on me. She smiled. I heard you were making a scene, she said, her voice syrupy sweet. I tilted my head. I don't recall inviting you. She let out a gentle laugh and walked in, hips swaying, every step calculated to draw attention. Ryan said I should attend just to see how things unfold. Of course, I murmured. He always liked an audience. Before another word could be exchanged, the door opened again. This time the man himself entered. Ryan Carter. Tailored navy suit. Rolex flashing beneath a rolled cuff. Hair immaculately styled. He looked like every glossy magazine cover that crowned him CEO of the Year. He barely looked at me. Instead, he moved directly to Jamie, placed a hand on her lower back and kissed her cheek. Vanessa clapped her hands once as if things were finally falling into place. Ryan turned to the room with a bored smile. Everyone, you can relax. You'll be out of here shortly. He finally looked at me briefly and said, "Claire, let's not waste time. Name your price and sign the divorce." I didn't move. "I beg your pardon?" "You heard me." He pulled a folder from under his arm and tossed it onto the table. "Let's stop pretending this marriage is anything but a polite contract. One that has expired." He said it like he was announcing the weather. Jamie looked on with pleased satisfaction. Vanessa grinned like a dog who just got thrown a bone. Me? I laughed. Not loud. Not deranged. Just a breath of amusement from deep in my chest. "You really think," I said slowly, "that you can just end this marriage on your terms? After all the humiliations? After today?" Ryan rolled his eyes. "Claire, you've served your purpose. But this company is moving into a new era, and you don't fit the image we want anymore." "Oh, and what is that image exactly?" "Homewreckers in red dresses." Jamie let out a soft gasp, but Ryan stepped between us, smirking. "Don't start with the jealousy act. You know what this is. You were never really in love with me. You married me because my grandfather owed your family a debt. Let's not dress it up like something it wasn't." I stared at him. There was the truth spoken without shame. Favor. The marriage bargain. The power play. "You're right," I said quietly. "I married you because I didn't believe in love. And I thought honoring my grandfather's legacy was worth the sacrifice." Ryan's face remained blank. "But you." I stepped forward. "You were nothing when we married. Your company was dying. Your competitors were vultures. You were drowning. And I handed you the only lifeboat that could float. My family's network. My father's contacts. The capital that lifted Carter Group from a failing firm into an industry titan." "That's ancient history," Ryan said dismissively. "I built this." "No," I smiled. "I built you." Jamie bristled beside him. "Ryan, you don't have to listen to this." Ryan waved her off. "Claire," he said coolly, "whether you like it or not, this is happening. We're getting divorced. You're not the woman this company needs. Jamie, she's everything you're not. Educated, elegant, connected. And married to her father's money," I interjected. "You're trading an empire you built through my blood for a throne made of quicksand." The silence cracked like ice. Jamie stepped forward now, smile gone. "Careful," she said in a voice laced with steel. "You're speaking to your replacement." I turned to her and said, "You're not my replacement, Jamie. You're a chapter in his downfall." Her face flushed scarlet. She looked to Ryan for help, but for once he had nothing to say. I stepped back, adjusted my blouse, and looked at the interns still stationed near the door. "You can unlock the doors now." Vanessa objected. "She hasn't been searched." I shot her a glare so sharp she stepped back. "Try me, Vanessa," I said. "Touch me again and the Lin family won't be the only ones watching your career dissolve." Jamie flinched at the mention of her family. Vanessa paled. The interns hesitated, then unbolted the doors. Ryan didn't move. "Claire," he said once more. "Don't make this uglier than it needs to be." I looked at him and gave him the kindest smile I could fake. "You're right," I said. "Let's not make this ugly." Then I turned to Jamie. "But I will say one thing." She arched an eyebrow. "You wore red to my funeral," I said, taking a slow step toward the doors. "I'll wear black to yours." Then I walked out of the room, leaving only stunned silence in my wake. Let them think they'd won. Let them bask in their delusions. Because the real storm hadn't even started. Not yet. I didn't get far. I had only reached the end of the hallway outside the conference room when I heard the unmistakable click of expensive shoes chasing after me. "Claire." Ryan's voice echoed down the corridor. I didn't stop. Not when he called again, not when I heard his tone drop from arrogant to irritated. But when he grabbed my wrist, gently but firmly, I turned. "Fully." "Let go," I said, my voice cold. I wasn't finished talking. I raised an eyebrow. "And yet I walked away. That's how conversations end, Ryan." He looked tired. But more than that, he looked confused. "This attitude, what happened to you?" "You did." That stunned him for half a second. Then he scoffed, trying to regain his footing in this argument. "I don't want to fight." "Of course you don't. You've already declared victory, haven't you? You paraded your mistress into a boardroom. Humiliated me in front of your staff. You locked me in like a criminal and handed me a divorce agreement like a business memo." His lips tightened. Jamie had nothing to do with that. Spare me. He glanced down at the folder in his hands, same one he'd thrown on the table earlier. This time he handed it to me more politely, almost as if remembering I was still his wife. For now. Look, he said, I know this is messy. But let's make it clean. Sign it. I'll make it worth your while. You'll never have to work again. Real estate, stocks, whatever you want. I took the folder from his hand and flipped through the pages. The usual nonsense. Mutual agreement, no-fault dissolution, non-disparagement clauses. A lump sum payment that looked generous to the untrained eye. And then I reached the signature line. Ryan's name was already inked in bold strokes, waiting for mine beneath it. I smiled. You really don't remember, do you? He frowned. What? The agreement your grandfather signed before our wedding, I said, closing the folder slowly. Ryan blinked. You mean the wedding contract? That thing was ceremonial. No, I said, voice like glass. It was binding. Filed. Stamped. And enforceable under international financial law. He blinked. What are you talking about? Article 4, Clause 9, I said calmly, reciting it from memory. Should Ryan Carter initiate divorce without mutual agreement or proof of Claire Bennett's misconduct, all Carter Group assets derived or expanded through Bennett family networks will be subject to full retraction. He stared at me blankly. I smiled wider. In short, Ryan, if you divorce me without a damn good reason, I take everything. For a long beat, Ryan said nothing. Then, predictably, he burst out laughing. You're joking. Try me. You think that old man's dusty prenup still matters? I know it does, I said. Your legal team forgot. You did. But my lawyers didn't. My father didn't. Every deal you closed with Bennett leveraged contacts. Gone. Every investor I brought to your table? Gone. The foreign licenses under my name? Gone. He took a step back, the color draining slightly from his face. But Jamie's father can't do anything, I interrupted. The Lynn family is powerful, but not Capital Circle powerful. Harbor City money doesn't scare my family. You traded long-term wealth for red lipstick and a cocktail dress. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. I dropped the folder back into his hands. And yet, I said lightly, I'll sign anyway. His eyes snapped up to mine. What? I'll sign the divorce, I repeated, pulling a Montblanc pen from my bag. Because I want this more than you do. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. But, you'll be activating the clause. Yes. He blinked. You'll really take it all? I clicked the pen. You told me to name my price, Ryan. That's my price. He stared, throat working, mind scrambling behind his eyes. The weight of what I'd said was beginning to register. That folder in his hands was no longer a tool to humiliate me. It was a loaded gun pointed at his own head. I took the last page, signed with a steady hand, and handed it back to him with a smile. Congratulations, I said softly. You're free now. Ryan just stood there, eyes bouncing between the signed page and my face. Claire. You wanted someone more glamorous. More connected. You got her. Just remember, Ryan. Jamie may have a famous surname, but I own mine. I turned on my heel. He didn't follow. Back in the parking lot, my driver was waiting beside the car, his gloved hand already reaching for the door. Miss Bennett. He greeted me, bowing his head. I paused, slipping into the back seat as the door closed behind me. Head to the family office, I said. And call Richard. Tell him to start the retraction protocols. Yes, ma'am. The city blurred past the tinted windows, but all I could hear was Ryan's laughter, echoing in my head. The arrogance, the carelessness. He thought I was bluffing. They always do. I leaned back into the leather seat, finally allowing myself a breath. It was beginning. They didn't know it yet, but the empire they built on my back. It was already gone. At the Bennett family office in the heart of the capital, Richard, my father's lead counsel, was already waiting in the executive boardroom. He stood as I entered, bowing slightly. Miss Bennett, he greeted. Is it filed? Yes, ma'am. Per the prenup terms, we've initiated the automatic withdrawal of all partnership clauses between Bennett and Carter Enterprises. The overseas venture licenses, 2 exclusive supplier rights, and the diplomatic trade corridor agreement are now nullified. Good, I said. There's more, he added, adjusting his glasses. Your father instructed us to seize the collateralized assets registered under your marriage. Properties, business shares, and offshore holdings. Execute it. He hesitated. That includes the Carter penthouse and corporate jet. I smiled. Execute it. Understood. Richard gave a low, satisfied chuckle before leaving the room. I stood there alone, staring out the window. Below, the city bustled, blind to the storm brewing. Jamie would realize soon enough that her shiny new husband had no throne. Only a crumbling pedestal built from borrowed power. And when it all came crashing down, I wouldn't even be there to watch. 2 hours later my phone buzzed. Ryan Carter, you activated it? Claire Bennett. Yes. Ryan Carter, are you insane? We're about to go public. Claire Bennett, I know. Ryan Carter, you'll destroy us. Claire Bennett, not us, Ryan. Just you. He didn't reply after that. That night I sat alone in my apartment. One Ryan never knew about. The one I bought under a trust name before the wedding just in case the worst came. I poured a glass of wine, stared at the city skyline, and listened to the buzz of news alerts coming in. Carter Group shares dropped 12% in early evening trading. Sources claim sudden withdrawal of Bennett family partnerships. Rumors of internal executive divorce confirmed by insiders. I didn't smile. Not yet. Because this wasn't about revenge. This was about truth. They built an empire on my back. Now I was breaking it stone by stone. I was back in the Carter Group boardroom the next morning. By invitation. Vanessa had sent a stiff email on behalf of executive leadership, requesting a final sign-off on transitional documents. The phrasing tried to be neutral, but I knew the panic hiding behind the cold corporate tone. The moment I stepped into the room, a dozen eyes turned toward me, half hostile, half nervous, none brave enough to meet my gaze for long. I was dressed in ivory today. Soft, clean, untouched. The calm before the funeral. Vanessa was already seated at the head of the table. Her expression twitched ever so slightly when she saw me, but she schooled it back into a bland smile. Claire, she said, rising stiffly. Thank you for coming. I took a seat without responding. A young assistant scurried to pour me water. 2 legal associates awkwardly avoided eye contact. The tension was so thick even the clock on the wall seemed to tick slower. No sign of Ryan yet. But I knew he'd come. He couldn't afford not to. And right on cue the doors slammed open. Not gently. Not gracefully. They slammed. Everyone turned. And in walked Elder Carter. I hadn't seen him in months, but he looked the same, towering even at his age, broad-shouldered in his old military trench coat, silver cane in hand. His sharp eyes scanned the room like he was inspecting a battlefield. No one dared speak. Behind him trailed 2 personal aides, one carrying a briefcase, the other carrying his blood pressure monitor. A nurse tried to catch up, but he waved her away like a fly. Where is he? Elder Carter barked. Ryan appeared from the hallway, buttoning his blazer. Grandpa. Slap. The sound echoed through the boardroom like a gunshot. Ryan staggered backward, holding his cheek in stunned silence. A red welt bloomed instantly on his face. No one moved. Elder Carter raised his cane and smacked Ryan's shin with it next. You ungrateful, arrogant little brat. Grandpa. Ryan gasped, stepping back. I should have broken your legs instead of letting you run this company. You think I gave you this empire so you could trade it for lipstick and disgrace? Ryan straightened. I told you already, I divorced her. I did what had to be done. And now the entire Carter Group is bleeding, Elder Carter roared. The Bennett family has already filed for retraction on every strategic alliance. Do you understand what that means? We're finished. The boardroom sat frozen. No one dared whisper. Elder Carter turned to me, his tone shifting from fury to urgency. Claire. I stood, spine straight. Mr. Carter. His face softened, marginally. You're still family. This is all a misunderstanding. My grandson, he's young. Stupid. Too easily led astray. By Jamie Lynn? I asked lightly. A few people flinched. I didn't raise him to dishonor his word, Elder Carter continued, ignoring the jab. You are not just a wife. You are the cornerstone of this company's rise. You honored your family's name. You kept our promise. I said nothing. Let's fix this, he pleaded. Let's undo the divorce. I'll correct him. He'll grovel if he has to. I looked across the room. All eyes were on me now. No one looked at Ryan. Not even Vanessa. They were looking to me like a lifeline. A reset button. A parachute. Elder Carter stepped forward. And then he bowed. To me. Gasps filled the air. My throat tightened. The founder of Carter Group. The decorated war hero. The iron-fisted patriarch of a corporate empire, was bowing to me. He began to lower himself further. I surged forward. Please, don't. I caught his arm before he could kneel, steadying him before the room witnessed what would have been an irrevocable moment. You don't have to kneel, I said gently. Please. He looked up at me with misty eyes. Claire, you don't understand what's at stake. I do. Then you know what this divorce means. To us. To the company. To me. I swallowed the lump in my throat and said, it's not about Ryan anymore. The room stilled. It's about me. I'm choosing me. The weight of those words sank in like a dropped anchor. Elder Carter stared at me, helpless, devastated. Not angry. Not outraged. Just an old man watching the kingdom he built start to fall. You're serious? Yes, I said softly. He staggered back a step. I failed you, he whispered. No. You honored my grandfather, I said. You kept your word. But Ryan didn't. And now this debt between our families, it's over. He looked like he wanted to speak again. But there were no more words. I turned to the room. Effective today, all cooperative terms between the Bennett and Carter families are nullified. Vanessa finally found her voice. You're being petty. I met her eyes. I'm being precise. She scoffed. You think you're untouchable because your father's rich? This company will recover. Jamie's connections are stronger than you think. I walked slowly to her seat, leaned down and said softly, let me tell you a secret, Vanessa. She didn't move. My father already pulled strings to have the Lynn family blocked from every major capital investment portfolio. Jamie is already being removed from her charity boards. And Mr. Lynn is flying in today to explain himself in person. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Nothing came out. I stood back up. So no, I don't think I'm untouchable. I am untouchable. Ryan finally looked up from the shadows of his humiliation. Claire, please. I turned my gaze on him and for the first time I didn't feel hatred. Just emptiness. You had it all, I said. And you threw it away for a woman who wore red to another woman's marriage. He looked shattered. Good. I walked to the door and paused. This is the last time I step into this building, I said without turning around. The next time you see my name, it'll be on a list of companies swallowing yours. The door closed behind me with a quiet click. And just like that, the Carter dynasty began to crumble. Outside the boardroom, I was met by Richard, my father's counsel. Miss Bennett, he said with a bow. It's done. Good. Should I arrange a press statement? I paused. Not yet. Why? I looked up at the cloudy sky beyond the glass windows. Because I want them to sit in silence a little longer. I want them to hear every tick of the clock. I want them to feel what happens when you underestimate a woman who builds her own empire. Richard nodded solemnly. And we left. I wasn't planning to return. After my final words in the boardroom, I thought I had closed that chapter for good. But sometimes the ashes aren't enough. Sometimes the fire must return to ensure the foundation is completely reduced to dust. So when Vanessa sent a follow-up email asking for closure, I agreed to return, just once more. Not for them. For the record. For the witnesses. For me. I entered the same conference room I had exited like a queen days ago. The energy had shifted. Now no one laughed when I walked in. No whispers. No mutters about CO's wife. No sidelong smirks. Just silence. Like something sacred had arrived. Vanessa sat stiffly at the far end of the table, her previously smug expression replaced with something that looked like mild indigestion. Her eyes flicked to the door behind me, anxiously waiting. The click of heels announced Jamie's arrival. She swept in, dramatic as ever, in another designer dress, today gold. Her makeup was sharper than usual, her lips painted a punishing plum. Claire, she greeted me, voice falsely sweet. Still clinging to this place? I took a seat, crossing one leg over the other. I'm just tying up loose ends. Jamie walked to Ryan's side, linking her arm with his like she was attaching a leash. Ryan looked exhausted, his once confident stance now dimmed by reality. He didn't speak. Jamie, however, beamed. "I must admit," she said, her voice echoing through the room, "your little prenup stunt was clever. Dramatic even. But everyone's moved on. Ryan's with me now. And the Carter Group is rebuilding." I offered her a calm smile. "Is that so?" "Yes," she said proudly. "My father's been briefed. He fully supports our union." I leaned forward. "Oh," I asked. "You've spoken to Mr. Lin yourself?" She blinked once, then recovered. "Of course," she lied with a toss of her perfect curls. "He's delighted. I'm about to become Mrs. Carter. Why wouldn't he be?" Vanessa chuckled weakly in support. Jamie leaned in closer. "You've had your moment, Claire. But it's over. You lost. So you can stop pretending to be powerful." She tilted her head with a cruel smile. "Because you never were." I slowly reached into my bag, pulled out my phone and placed it on the center of the table. "Let's ask him." Her smile faltered slightly. "What?" I tapped the screen. "Siri," I said, my voice calm and clear. "Call Mr. Lin." Jamie stiffened. Vanessa stopped breathing. The line began to ring. 1, 2, 3. Then, connected. A low, familiar voice crackled through the speaker. "Claire," came the unmistakable voice of Morgan Lin, the head of the Lin family in Harbor City. His tone shifted to warmth instantly. "I was just thinking of calling you. Is everything all right?" Jamie turned pale. Vanessa looked like she'd seen a ghost. I didn't break eye contact with Jamie. "Mr. Lin," I said gently. "I'm here with your daughter." There was a pause. "My daughter?" he asked, confused. "You mean Jamie?" "Yes." Another pause. Then sharply, "What is she doing there?" Jamie scrambled to speak. Dad, it's fine, I can explain." "Explain." Morgan Lin's voice thundered through the speaker, rattling glass and hearts. "You've humiliated our entire family. Dad. You insult the Bennett family? The one that made our empire possible? Are you trying to kill me with shame?" Jamie gasped. "I told you, stay out of this mess. Claire Bennett is untouchable. And now you've dragged the Lin name through the mud." She reached for the phone. "Dad, please, You're no longer my daughter," he bellowed. "If Claire doesn't forgive you, the Lin family is finished. Do you hear me? Finished." The room sat in stunned horror. Even Ryan recoiled. Morgan wasn't done. "Get on your knees and apologize to her. Kowtow until she forgives you. If she doesn't, you are dead to me." "Dead." Then the line went dead. And so did the room. Jamie stood frozen, trembling. The proud curl of her lips had vanished. Her jaw slackened. Her hand shook. Then slowly, without a word, she dropped to her knees. Her dress, expensive and tight, restricted her movement. She collapsed forward, hands trembling, forehead touching the cold marble floor. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "Miss Bennett. I was wrong." No one moved. No one dared stop her. She pressed her head to the floor once. Twice. A third time. Each impact more brutal than the last. Blood bloomed at the center of her forehead. "Please forgive me," she sobbed. "Please. I was wrong. It was me. Don't punish my family." Her voice cracked, shaking with terror. It wasn't an act. She was truly afraid. Because Morgan Lin wasn't bluffing. And everyone in that room knew it. I remained seated, calm. Vanessa clutched her stomach like she might vomit. Ryan looked like he wanted to vanish into his chair. Jamie's blood smeared the floor now, but she didn't stop. "I was blind. I bullied you. I deserve this." Her voice cracked and then faded into soft, broken whimpers. She slapped herself once. Then again. And again. The sound of it echoed like thunder. I still didn't move. She'd made herself an empress in red heels. And now she was bleeding on the floor before me, begging for mercy she had never offered to others. When I finally stood, Jamie flinched, forehead still pressed to the ground. I stepped past her slowly, heels clicking softly against the stone floor. Then I turned to Ryan. "She's your future now," I said. He said nothing. I leaned closer. "Clean it up." And then I walked out. Back in the elevator, I pressed the ground floor button with a kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. My phone buzzed. "Morgan Lin. Thank you for your mercy, Miss Bennett. My deepest apologies again. All business between the Lynn and Carter families is hereby suspended. I smiled and replied, Claire Bennett, I never needed your apology. Just your acknowledgement. The elevator doors opened. I stepped out and into a future no longer tethered to men who mistook me for furniture. Let Jamie bleed. Let Ryan flinch. Let Vanessa crumble. The throne they built on my back? I'd taken it with me and burned the castle down. The next morning I didn't need an invitation. This time I called the meeting. My name was still on the executive partner registry. For now. The moment I stepped into the Carter Group's main boardroom, the temperature dropped several degrees. The chairs filled quickly with senior executives, legal officers, financial managers, and department heads, all of them looking anywhere but at me. Vanessa was already seated to the right of the head chair, Ryan's usual spot. Her face was stiff with effort, her lipstick lighter today, her confidence worn thin. Ryan strolled in 5 minutes late. He wore a navy suit with a gold pocket square. Arrogant. Relaxed. Unapologetic. Behind him, Jamie limped slightly, head lowered. A bandage covered her bruised forehead, but the real wound was invisible and deeper. Claire, Ryan said with a charming grin, as though he hadn't tried to erase me from his company, his family, his life. Always so punctual. You could have at least taken the week off to cool down. I looked at him as if he were background noise. Then I stood and spoke. This won't take long, I said, my voice cutting through the tension like a blade. I'm here to inform you that, as of this morning, the Carter-Bennett prenuptial agreement has entered the enforcement stage. The room went silent. Ryan raised an eyebrow, amused. That again? You really thought I was bluffing, didn't you? I said, lips curving into the faintest smile. He chuckled. Claire, be serious. You may have some family influence, but you don't control the entire company. I nodded. You're right. He blinked. I don't control it anymore, I added. That's when the doors to the boardroom opened. 3 men and 1 woman walked in. All dressed in tailored suits. Black folders in hand. Eyes sharp. Not one of them looked at Ryan. Instead they walked straight to me. Richard, my father's lead counsel, placed a folder before me. Everything is ready, Miss Bennett. I nodded and turned back to the room. For those who weren't informed, the prenup includes a full retraction clause. That means every asset, contract, license, or merger tied to my family's name, capital, or associates will be reversed. Effective immediately. Ryan's grin began to flicker. You can't do that, he said slowly. I already did. You're bluffing again, he snapped. Am I? I raised my hand and gestured toward the projector screen on the wall. Richard tapped a remote. The screen came to life. Slide after slide appeared. Cancelled contracts. Revoked export licenses. Pulled international funding. Closed distribution pipelines. Frozen strategic investments. Ryan stared at the screen, his mouth parting slightly as the list continued. More than 20% of Carter Group's international leverage. Gone. And that was just the beginning. I warned you, I said softly. You thought you could betray me and suffer nothing. He turned to Richard, desperation creeping into his voice. You can't do this. Richard tilted his head. You signed the agreement, Mr. Carter. Your grandfather filed it through a neutral third party. Every term is enforceable. Every clause is valid. Your company rose on the back of Bennett assets, and now those assets are being reclaimed. Vanessa shot up from her chair. This is illegal. No, Richard said calmly. It's ironclad. And you can read it for yourself. He handed her a copy of the agreement. She snatched it with trembling fingers and began flipping through it, the color draining from her face by the second. Ryan finally lost the rest of his smile. You can't do this to me, he said in a low voice, stepping toward me. You're doing this to all of us. To hundreds of employees. Thousands of families. Don't talk to me about family, I replied. You dragged your mistress into my boardroom and locked me in like a thief. I made a mistake. No, I cut him off. You made a choice. And now I'm making mine. He looked at the papers on the table. Then back at me. You don't want to do this, Claire. You already signed the divorce, I said, sliding the final page toward him. Now all I'm doing is signing the effect. I picked up the pen and signed. One clean stroke. His world collapsed in a single breath. A buzzing noise filled the boardroom. Phones vibrated. Tablets chimed. Emails and alerts flooded in. Reports from global investors. Withdrawals. Terminations. Financial hemorrhage. Jamie looked like she might faint. Vanessa finally sat back down, lips bloodless. Richard closed the folder. As of this moment, Miss Bennet is no longer affiliated with Carter Group in any capacity. But every deal she built will return to her. And to her name. The final nail. I stood. Ryan's eyes widened. You can't just walk away. I'm not walking, I said, lifting my bag. I'm leaving. And I'm taking my empire with me. He reached for my wrist. I stepped back. Don't ever touch me again. The guards at the door moved closer. He backed off. Desperation flickered across his face. Claire, please. Let's fix this. Let's sit down. We can find a middle ground. There's no middle ground between betrayal and dignity, I said. You chose her. You chose this. He opened his mouth again. I turned to the room. To everyone else, thank you. For watching this unfold. For laughing when Vanessa mocked me. For staying silent when Jamie knelt and bled. They shifted in their seats, shame rising like smoke. Don't worry, I added. I won't be back. And then I walked out. No one stopped me. They couldn't. Outside, my car was already waiting. Richard followed me out. Shall I notify the finance team to begin transition filings? He asked. Yes. And the press. Release the statement tomorrow morning. Let them squirm overnight. He nodded. Understood. I slid into the back seat. My driver adjusted the rearview mirror. Back to the Capitol, Miss Bennet? No, I said, gazing out the window. To my new office. That afternoon I stood on the 38th floor of my newly acquired headquarters. A building once leased under Carter Group, now mine, through shell companies they never even knew I controlled. The city stretched out beneath me. A kingdom I'd built in silence. One stone at a time. The door opened behind me. Richard stepped in again, holding a sleek tablet. Report. Carter stock dropped 14% in the last hour. Forecast suggests a minimum 30% drop by end of day. Good. Vanessa submitted her resignation already. No need to accept it. He paused. Let her sink with the ship. Richard chuckled. Very well. He hesitated before leaving. One more thing. Yes. Your father called. I turned. He said, well done. I didn't respond. I just turned back to the skyline, eyes sharp, heart steady. Let them learn. I wasn't just the CEO's wife. I was the power behind the throne. No. I was the one who signed its end. Destruction doesn't always explode. Sometimes it collapses, quiet, slow, and undeniable. By the next morning, the Carter Group had become an open wound. I didn't need to refresh the stock ticker. The building panic could be felt in the air, an energy that pulsed through the city like a current. At 9:03 a.m. the stock dropped 18%. By noon it crossed 32%. By 3 p.m., every major institutional investor had pulled out. And Carter Group was bleeding out on the trading floor. The headlines hit first. Breaking. Carter Group suffers historic collapse after sudden Bennett withdrawal. Carter Empire crumbles amid scandal and lost assets. Anonymous sources. CEO's infidelity sparks financial crisis. I sat in my new office, sipping white tea as Richard paced the floor, his phone buzzing non-stop. He paused only to give updates. 4 more investors gone, he said, not looking up. The strategic licensing body in Europe just revoked Carter's manufacturing permit. And, he glanced at his phone, the securities board is demanding an emergency audit. Internal irregularities have been reported. I didn't ask how. I already knew. Ryan was a competent figurehead, but he was lazy with details. All I had to do was shine a light into the shadows he ignored. Damage projections? I asked. Final quarter. 78% market value loss. Complete asset freeze likely within 72 hours. Good, I said softly. At 4:12 p.m., the news of Elder Carter's hospitalization went public. Carter Patriarch hospitalized following stroke. Sources said he had collapsed in his private villa after receiving a legal update showing the extent of the retraction. His aides couldn't stop him from reading to the final page. He went rigid, then pale, then unconscious. Ryan arrived at the hospital too late to catch his grandfather conscious. Elder Carter remained in the ICU, hooked to tubes, monitored by blinking machines. The family released a brief statement asking for privacy in this difficult time. I didn't need to say anything. The world was already drawing its own conclusions. At 7 p.m. photos surfaced. Is that Jamie Lynn? Socialite heiress spotted promoting whiskey at Club Marquee. The once graceful Jamie was shown in a dimly lit VIP lounge, wearing a tight sequin dress and holding up branded alcohol like a glorified bottle girl. Her smile was plastered on, but her eyes were wild, like someone trying not to drown in plain sight. I zoomed in on one photo. A smear of dried blood was still faintly visible beneath the heavy foundation on her forehead. Caption read, Lynn heiress shifts gigs after financial fallout. Insiders say Morgan Lynn has cut ties. No insider needed. I made it happen. My father had met with Morgan Lynn the night before. The meeting lasted 15 minutes. Jamie's name was never to be spoken again in the capital. She'd officially been erased. Vanessa was next. She tried to go quietly, submitting a dignified resignation letter, citing irreconcilable executive differences. But it was too late for dignity. By morning, her email account had been locked, her desk packed by interns, and her security badge deactivated. The message was clear. You don't get to quit the ship you helped sink. The professional networks that once praised her savvy and poise went silent. Her LinkedIn profile vanished. And the board of women in tech she chaired removed her name from their website by sunset. Richard sent me a brief summary. Subject: Lynn and Carter fallout, phase 2 complete. Note: Vanessa Lynn blacklisted on all major executive registers. No new corporate offers as of this morning. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. This was exactly how I planned it. Ryan tried to hold on. He appeared on Carter Group's emergency shareholder livestream late that night. He wore a muted tie, spoke softly, played the victim. The decisions made were deeply personal. But I want to assure our investors. The comment section was brutal. So you tanked the company for a mistress? How do you lose $500 million overnight? Should have kept the wife. She had brains. Is this Claire Bennett's doing? The stream was cut off after 12 minutes due to technical issues. The next day, I received an unmarked envelope at my new office. Inside were 3 things. 1. A formal notice of Ryan Carter's removal from the Carter Group Board of Directors. 2. A photograph of him being escorted out by private security. 3. A torn business card, his own, with the corner burned. I stared at the photo for a long time. He looked smaller now. Sunken. Hollow. No more gold ties. No more swagger. Just a man who bet everything on a game he never understood, and lost. I thought I might feel something. Bigger. Triumph. Satisfaction. But all I felt was freedom. Later that evening, I walked out onto the rooftop of my office building. The wind was high, the city aglow beneath the velvet sky. My phone buzzed. Text from Dad. Your mother would have been proud of you today. That one made me pause. I held the phone close and closed my eyes for a moment. She always said I was too soft, that I cared too much. But she also told me, one day they'll push you too far. And when they do, don't just push back. Shatter the ground they're standing on. So I did. Back at my apartment, I poured a glass of champagne and turned on the news. Breaking. Claire Bennett declines interview, says only one word. Closure. Closure. That's exactly what this was. Jamie humiliated. Vanessa erased. Ryan stripped. The Carter Group collapsed. The throne they built on my back? Now rubble beneath my heels. Power isn't loud. It doesn't scream in boardrooms or clink glasses at charity galas. It moves in silence. Like ink on a contract. Like a name on a door. Like me, walking into my father's office for the first time in over a year, not as his daughter, but as his equal. The Bennett estate sat on the edge of the old Capitol. Stone walls, manicured lawns, and a legacy built on decisions no one outside the city ever understood. It wasn't ostentatious. But everything here had weight. When I entered the Bennett building, the security guard who once waved me through as Mr. Bennett's daughter, now stood to attention and bowed low. Welcome home, Miss Bennett. I nodded. Thank you. Richard met me at the elevator with a folder already open in his hands. Final paperwork for the asset transition. Your father's instructions were to wait until you returned before we finalized it. Smart man, I said, accepting the documents. We rose to the top floor. The elevator opened into the same familiar hallway I used to run through as a teenager. Back then I didn't care for polished floors and oil paintings. Now I saw it for what it was: armor. A man who'd built an empire didn't decorate. He fortified. And today he was passing part of that empire to me. My father was seated in his chair, reading the morning financial reports. He looked up when I walked in and removed his glasses. "You're late," he said. I smirked. "Only by 2 minutes." He gestured to the seat across from him. "The board is waiting for your signature." I sat down and flipped through the last stack of documents. "I heard Carter Group filed for bankruptcy protection this morning." He nodded. "You left a clean enough trail. Nothing to trace back to us." "That was smart. I learned from the best." He didn't smile, but his gaze softened just enough. "You did well," he said. "You took the hit and you didn't flinch." "Girl, Jamie." She never saw it coming. "She wasn't the threat," I replied. "Ryan was. He just used her as the knife." He watched me for a long moment, then asked, "And how do you feel now that it's over?" I looked at the skyline through the window behind him. The city I once tried to fit into. The one I now towered over. "I feel free," I said. He nodded once. Then slid a gold pen across the table. I signed. And with that, Carter Group's remains became mine. Within the week, I took control of every joint venture previously co-managed by the Bennett and Carter families. Licensing rights. Import-export channels. Real estate trust. Medical subsidiaries. Every acquisition made through my network was severed, swallowed, and rebranded. What once had Carter's name now bore mine. Bennett Global. The press went wild. Claire Bennett reclaims empire. Carter Group dismantled from within. From CEO's wife to titan in her own right. The queen they tried to silence just bought the throne. I didn't give interviews. I didn't need to. The headlines spoke louder than any press conference ever could. In the weeks that followed, women began reaching out. Not society women in couture and soft smiles. Real women. A single mother who was pushed out of her startup after maternity leave. A junior executive harassed into silence by her department head. A fashion designer whose ideas were stolen by her male co-founder. They came not for sympathy, but strategy. They came for help building what no one could take from them. And I gave it. I founded the Bennett Women's Initiative, a venture arm dedicated to investing in female-led businesses, especially those emerging from betrayal, sabotage, or forced exits. I wasn't rebuilding Carter's empire. I was building something better. Something that belonged only to me, and those who deserved to rise with me. One afternoon, as I walked through the newly renovated lobby of Bennett Global HQ, a journalist managed to breach security and approach me with a single question. "Miss Bennett, now that you've destroyed Carter Group, what's next?" I turned slowly, looked her straight in the eyes. "I didn't destroy anything," I said. "I reclaimed what was mine. The rest was already rotting. I just stopped pretending not to smell it." The next morning, a new bronze plaque was mounted outside the building's glass doors. Read, "Claire Bennett, founder, chairwoman, survivor." And underneath it in fine print, "They married me to use me. I divorced them to destroy them." Ryan was never heard from again in corporate circles. Some said he tried to launch a podcast. Others said he was seeking refuge in minor overseas firms, begging for board positions. None of it mattered. Because the Carter name no longer opened doors. It closed them. Vanessa was photographed outside a third-tier recruitment agency, resume in hand, avoiding the cameras like a disgraced reality star. Jamie? Rumor had it she fled to Bali for spiritual healing, but word got out she was blacklisted from most social clubs in Hong Kong and the capital alike. Their fall was not loud. It was complete. And unfixable. As for Elder Carter, he recovered slowly. But he never returned to the company. They said he retired quietly. I don't know if he still watches the markets. I hope he does. So he can see exactly what rose from the ashes of the empire his grandson torched. My assistant knocked gently on my door as I reviewed the latest quarterly report. "Yes. There's a woman here. She said you might not remember her, but she used to be the receptionist at Carter Group. I looked up. Send her in. A nervous woman entered, clutching her purse. Her name tag said Marie. She looked around my office like she didn't believe it was real. Miss Bennett. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? I asked, honestly confused. He pulled out a letter. By severance. Came from you. Not Carter Group. You covered everyone they fired after the collapse. Even me. I blinked. I didn't think anyone noticed. She smiled tearfully. We all noticed. You were the only one who didn't look at us like furniture. She pressed her hands together and bowed. Then she turned and left. I sat still for a long moment after she was gone. Finally, I smiled. Not the polite one. Not the cold one. But the real one. The one that meant I made it. Not because I survived them, but because I became more powerful without them. The sun melted into the horizon like golden syrup spilling across the sea. Somewhere in the distance, the last trace of the Caribbean shore disappeared behind us, but I didn't look back. I had no reason to anymore. The waves whispered peace beneath the hull of my private yacht, the Halcyon. A name I chose for one reason only, because it means calm after chaos. And I had earned every ounce of it. I was barefoot, feet propped on the edge of the lounge deck, champagne glass sweating in my hand. No schedule. No meetings. No headlines. Just salt on my skin and wind in my hair. For the first time in years. No, for the first time in my life I was laughing. Not politely. Not for optics. But freely. Loudly. The kind of laugh that comes when you've walked through fire and come out with diamonds. A steward passed by with a tray of hors d'oeuvres. I waved him off. I wasn't hungry for anything but stillness. The kind you only find when you have nothing left to prove and no one left to impress. I pulled out my notebook. The same one I'd carried during the rise and fall of the Carter Group. The same one I used to jot down thoughts when I didn't trust my voice. Flipping to the final page, I scribbled something down. Day 1. No headlines. No knives in the back. No men trying to own me. Just me. I tapped the pen twice and set it aside. There had been talk of another venture. More expansion. A global fund. Tech wing. A women's bank. But I said no. Not forever. Just for now. Because I wanted to breathe. To sit on the edge of the world with a glass of something cold and a body that no longer carried tension like armor. To wear linen instead of power suits. To let my hair down, not for seduction but for serenity. To take a deep, unfiltered breath and know I was safe. Not because anyone protected me, but because I built the walls myself. A soft voice interrupted my thoughts. You've got mail, said my assistant Olivia, holding out an iPad with a smirk. She was the only person allowed on this trip. Emails on a yacht, I teased. You're lucky I like you. It's not business, she said. It's something else. I raised a brow. She handed over the device and retreated with a knowing smile. On the screen was a single email. Subject: I'm sorry. From Ryan.Carter@no-longer-relevant.com. I tapped it open. Claire. They say if you kneel long enough, your pride either returns or dies. Mine died. I've spent weeks trying to find the right words. I've come to realize there aren't any. I lost everything because I never saw what I had until it was gone. You were never weak. You were the empire I couldn't carry. I'm sorry, Ryan. I read it once. Then deleted it. And smiled. Because I didn't need an apology. Not anymore. I walked to the front of the yacht where the horizon split ocean and sky like a promise. The wind tugged at the silk robe wrapped loosely around me. I let it. Beneath my feet, the world rocked gently, no longer threatening to throw me off balance. I lifted my champagne glass. Let the bubbles rise like the version of me that once knelt for love, for peace, for acceptance. She was gone. In her place stood something sharper. Stronger. Sure. I thought of my wedding day, how tight the veil had felt, how heavy the silence was in my heart even then. I thought of Jamie's bloodied forehead on the marble floor. Vanessa's crumbling confidence as her future vanished. Ryan's broken posture as he begged in the rain, no longer a king, but a cautionary tale. And I thought of all the women I'd helped rise since. All the voices I'd amplified. All the hands I'd pulled out of the dark. And then, to no one in particular, I whispered. Not for the media. Not for Ryan. But for me. They married me to use me. I divorced them to destroy them. The words vanished into the wind like a vow fulfilled. Behind me, Olivia poured another glass and joined me at the bow. Do you think you'll ever go back? She asked. To the office? To the world. I looked out across the endless blue. I don't know, I said. But if I do, I'll walk in as a woman who can never be erased. Olivia grinned. So, next stop. I laughed. Someplace where my name isn't known and the phone doesn't ring. I'll book it. Good. We toasted, our glasses clinking softly beneath the Caribbean sun. And I leaned back, no throne beneath me, no crown on my head. Just peace. And power. And me. The end.